My longest yeah boy ever.
Yeah, boy. All right, I'll just stop that now.
We're
One
recording.
before I get winded, like the guy who sprinted in from the bullpen and then was so gassed by the time he got to the mound he couldn't pitch. That'll be
Who's
me for
that?
the pod. Oh, John Boy did a great video on it.
Anyway, hello. Welcome to today's episode of Juicing the Numbers, your statistics and sports podcast. I am one of your hosts, Joshua Tracy.
And I am the other one, Corwin Heller.
Oh, and how we have so much to talk about. There's bullshit going on in the world of baseball, the fun kind, the goofy kind, where the consequences aren't very severe. And the NFL draft is set and ready to go. As you are listening to this, it is Thursday, April 29th, and that means that the draft is tonight. As we're recording this, is the day before April 28th, in case you can't subtract one there.
Can't math.
Yeah, it's barely even math. It's kind of just counting. But anyway.
Way to rub it in.
Yeah, well, fuck you. So we're going to do a little bit of draft stuff. Corwin, do you want to start with the draft stuff? Or do you want to... That seems like it make more sense.
Versus starting with baseball, finishing on the draft. Honestly, it doesn't make a difference to me either way.
I think we should do the draft stuff so that way we make sure we get to all the points you had.
Sure. See, that's going to be stuck in my head this whole time.
Yeah, before we started recording, Corwin and I started rapping hip-hopopotamus or rhinoceros, whichever the song it's actually called.
I'm the hip-hopopotamus.
The lyrics are bottomless. Other rappers diss me.
So you have to leave the awkward pause in there while you do it.
Yeah. Anyway, so Corwin, where do you want to start with some of our... So we did a full first-round mock draft, but what are some of the other storylines we should know heading into the big day?
Yeah, I really just want to touch on a few things that either are going to affect the first round, are going to affect players specifically, not necessarily teams, although we will get to that a little bit later on, but really just rumors and noise and just little things about certain players that may cause a slide, may cause them to jump up. And here we are. So probably the way we'll go through this is I'll save the quarterbacks for last. We'll go by expected draft position, I guess. So Caleb Farley, I had him as my number one cornerback this year. Guy is athletic freak. He is, in my mind, the guy with the most room to grow. Not necessarily the best cornerback, but the one that is, I think, destined for possibly the highest peak if things work out. Supposedly, he has gone through some pretty serious surgeries in the past, has gone through and played through some serious injuries, and is still overcoming a surgery that essentially ended his season in 2020. He's been dealing with a back injury for more than 2 years, leading to 2 surgeries since 2019. He also had a wrist injury that he played through and is now on a current 16-week recovery period for a microdiscectomy, which I don't know what that is, but at the same time, I don't really think it matters.
Sounds like they're
surgery.
partially cutting him open and seeing what's inside.
Yeah, and
you dissect frogs in science class. Like you go in there and you take everything out. So it's like a micro dissectomy. So it's like we're taking out some of your stuff.
And either way, that's in his back, which is not a place I really want to fuck with.
They're in the back.
So he herniated his L5 disc and bulged his S1 joint, which he hurt deadlifting. Has battled sciatica. I'm really glad I pronounced that right and knew what it was while I was reading it.
Sciatica.
Oh, fuck. I would have just collapsed and this episode would have been over. And then had a discectomy in February 2020 to remove part of a bone that was causing discomfort. And here we are. So he's still feeling weakness in some of his big toes, some of his big toes, some of his toes, the one big toe.
Some of his big toes, at
Why
least
use
30% of his big toes.
why use many word when few word do trick? But he's still going through that now. He tore his ACL in 2017, plays a speed position where these kind of injuries, these constant nagging injuries are going to shorten his career. And no matter what his potential is, no matter how good he is and the talent that he has, it's at a point where, J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain Jr. are such good prospects on their own right. Easily, either one of them could be a serious cornerback one for any given team that I think his draft stock's really going to suffer, is going to fall probably to the back end of the first round at the least, if not more. And I definitely think we could see a team like the Saints try and snag him with their pick at 26, 20. I don't remember where they pick, and it doesn't matter. Late.
Yeah, I closed all my tabs for that.
Which is fine.
And
It
which is
is
saying
what it
something for
is.
me. It takes a lot of effort for that to happen.
Right. So Josh is kind of known for having 650 tabs open at any given time, and it is
Every given time.
truly infuriating to watch. But at the same time, uh, it's one of those things where we'll allow it because we kind of like the guy.
Sometimes I have to like really check myself with the tabs on like my Google Chrome on my phone because I'll have like 50 tabs open at a time. Cause I don't look at how many I have open, and it's not like when you crack open your laptop and you go like, oh shit, that's way too much shit at the top of my screen. It's like just the one thing you're looking at. So I just keep opening and opening and opening, and I never fucking think to close them. And then I'll purge like 25, 30. So I'll still have like 20 fucking tabs open because I convince myself, no, I need to leave that recipe open because one day I will make that. And it has been sitting open. The fucking New York Times food section recipe shit's been open for like 3 months already, and I ain't fucking even thought about it. Yeah, it's bad.
That's absolute insanity, and I don't know how you do it.
I think we should all live that life. I think we should all live that life.
No. Next up, I'm actually glad we went on that tangent because it allowed me to do some more research on our next talking point, Mr. Terrence Marshall Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. I should mention Caleb Farley is a cornerback from Virginia Tech. So I had Terrence Marshall going to the Saints at the back end of the first round, now where I think would be a nice fit for Caleb Farley. Supposedly at the combine, a extensive medical history dating back to high school has really soured multiple teams on his draft stock. Um, he missed time with a lower leg injury in high school, missed time at LSU because of a stress fracture in his foot. He only played 9 games as a freshman, opted out after the 7th game of this past season to prep for the draft. He's got a short career. He stood out in his short career, but at the same time, the medical history stuff is not something that's privy to the media, not something that's privy to the general public. And it's a lot of speculation at this point. It could easily be a smokescreen for a team to try to lower his draft stock so that they can swoop in and snag him without moving up. And it could be completely legitimate where we see Terrence Marshall fall to the late second round. We could see him go to the third, like we saw with DK Metcalf. It's something that, you need to keep an eye on, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm torn because it's one of those things where this time of year, every single year, you hear 100 different storylines, and it's just parsing through to figure out what you trust the most and what you would agree with, what you're willing to put weight in, and what you have to just toss aside like you believe it's a smokescreen. So because it's medicals, because there's really no way of confirming any of it, it's difficult to say, but I would now be surprised if he is taken in the first round, which was already a bit of a stretch. I think it's now a fairly decent chance he doesn't get taken in the second.
Ooh, so you think he's fallen?
I think he's fallen. Teams get scared when, the clock's running, they're running out of time. You can't really do all that due diligence unless it's an absolute value in your mind. teams I could easily see, hey, if we have, Terrence Marshall and Elijah Moore with the same grades, one of them has a questionable medical history, the other doesn't. Okay, let's go this way. All right, Terrence Marshall, Kadarius Toney. It might be a little different. Let's take Toney because he doesn't have those question marks. That's how slides start, and one team will still be in love with them.
Okay.
This next one is a little bit of a surprise. Actually, you know what? We'll talk the Steelers and then close out on the wacky Waney one. Apparently Ian Rappaport, reporter and insider for the NFL Network.
Ian Rappaport, the reporter. It's just a lot of those sounds.
Bitch.
Reported by Ian Rappaport, the reporter.
I was trying to think of the word insider, could not at first, and was trying to buy myself time because words are hard. That's usually how those sentences get bungled up. Either I'm combining and things just kind of layer on top of each other, or I am just struggling.
Both of those can be true at the same time.
Or both. Yeah, or both. Either way, he has spoken to many people, and almost all of them believe that the Steelers want to draft Najee Harris with the first pick in their draft, number 24 overall. It's not a surprise. Kevin Colbert, Steelers GM, dismissed the notion earlier today that first-round running backs are risky as far as a value proposition goes.
That's stupid.
If you have a dynamic player at any position, that player can make a difference, and running back is no different. And we've talked about this a bit in the past where we both agree paying big contracts to anyone but, truly special running backs is just a waste of money and almost never brings back the kind of value that you're investing. Late running backs in the draft in the middle rounds are a dime a dozen because they seem to be found every year. It's just kind of deciding which one that will be, and that's up to your scouting department. And we've seen a fair risk, mostly injury-wise, from early running backs in the first round, but we've also seen, Saquon Barkley. We've seen, Todd Gurley, who up until his injury or his knees kind of just disintegrated, has been excellent. Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott. You've seen first-round guys make a huge difference for teams and are just a major focal point of any offense. But at the same time, we're here talking about the Steelers, and you have to look at the situation surrounding it, not just their running back depth as, in a vacuum. And you need to realize, hey, you have two good guards. You're all pro center retired. You're losing your left and right tackle. And you're having two guys who have shown some flashes, who have shown, the capacity, not necessarily the consistency to play. And Chuck Okorafor and God damn it, it's going to drive me insane because fuck. It's going to kill me. It's really going to kill me because we just signed him this year. He's a Steelers fan favorite. Oh my God, it's going to hurt me. I'm in the middle of looking at it. I'm just trying to buy time again.
I got no fucking clue.
Yeah,
and
I
as
know.
it looks right here,
it's not.
I got
not
no
in
neck.
Google. It's not in Google first up, so I'm struggling.
I was
right
at
tackle.
a wedding.
Zach Banner.
Oh, okay.
We did it, guys. We got to Zach Banner. Your friendly, Jewish, loving Steelers right tackle.
I just want to share that I was at a wedding the other day, and I was standing behind at the church. The type of fat people that got no neck.
Mm-hmm.
It was that, which is fine, but what was funny was that his collar was clearly too tight, because that's the fucking bitch thing about men's dress shirt collars, because
Always
they're either too tight or comically loose, and it looks like you're wearing a different shirt that is unbuttoned, and it's especially hard when you're heavy set.
And I have a very small neck because I am a very scrawny guy, in case you can't tell. And I always have the issue of no matter how tight I make my tie, it's either choking me because that's just the way dress shirts can be, or it's just like a gap opening up. And it's just like, There's nothing I can do here, but this looks terrible. I'm sorry.
And so the guy, the shirt was so tight that he had like the neck fat bulge, but he also had no neck. So it looked like the back of his head just like kept going past his shirt. And that's what this made me think of. Because you know what? Sometimes head skin's really funny.
I fucking hate you sometimes, man. I really do.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, man.
Oh, so to get back to the whole running back thing, because you mentioned Christian McCaffrey, you mentioned Saquon Barkley, and you mentioned
Zeke and Gurley.
I didn't pull up Zeke, but I pulled up Todd Gurley. I'm gonna pull up Zeke too, because the problem is basically what you would. It's if you are so high in the draft that you can take one of these guys, you probably have a bigger need than running back, and that's the difference. Yeah. It's not that, and I know you agree. Yeah. This is for this stupid piece of shit, whoever you quoted. Because if we look at
general manager,
fuck the Steelers general manager. You've had Ben Roethlisberger for like 20 fucking years. What do you know about positional need, bitch? So anyway, if you were to draft, so the Rams in 2015 when they drafted Todd Gurley, and holy shit, I can't believe that was 2015. That is uncomfortably long ago. Could have had one of Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota at the time, both of which were considered good picks. Sorry, no, they couldn't. Those went 1 and 2. Sorry, I meant to go the other way. My bad, folks.
You said it, and I was like, I really don't think that's true.
No, they couldn't have. But they could have taken Marcus Peters at cornerback, who panned out, fucking phenomenally. Andrews Pete on offensive tackle.
Not for them, though.
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to think of who else was really a difference-making player here.
I should pull
Landon Collins at safety.
That was a good guy. What year was this?
2015. Byron Jones at corner.
He's been a good guy.
And it's just that, like,
where do we got this?
Todd Gurley contributes, but there's it's just not that it's not the most impact making position that you can go with. Especially with that 2015. Imagine the Rams right now had drafted Marcus Peters instead of eventually trading for Marcus Peters. And what a difference it would have been in the development of their defense over time. It would have meant that they probably would have had to spend less capital acquiring Marcus Peters later fucking anyway, and would have allowed them to make more differences with fewer additions by having part of their field locked down a little bit. And you go and let's look at the 2016 draft with Ezekiel Elliott. He got taken 4th overall when the Cowboys at that time could have taken Jalen Ramsey, Ronnie Stanley, DeForest Buckner, Laramie Tunsil, but that was a whole story. Keanu Neal, right? They didn't really need an offensive tackle at that point in time or a center for Ryan Kelly. Kenny Clark. I mean, now granted, it worked out fine for them because they found a 4th round nugget.
Jesus Christ.
What?
I'm just looking back at that 2015 draft with Todd Gurley. That year, the Rams took 3 offensive tackles. 3 offensive tackles. Clearly a major need for that team. And 3 picks after Todd Gurley is taken, Andrews Pete goes to the Saints, who's been a 3-time Pro Bowler and an absolute lockdown offensive lineman for them. Cool.
It's just bad drafting. And then let's look at the Carolina Panthers. They take Christian McCaffrey at 8. After that, 2 picks later, Patrick Mahomes. 4 picks later, Deshaun Watson. I mean, could you imagine the Panthers if they had Patrick Mahomes right now?
Who's their quarterback that year?
This is 2017, so I think this was the
Cam.
I think this was the first year Cam was hurt and didn't play.
Damn. Could you imagine that though?
Fucking no. It'd be crazy.
Let's see. Carolina in 2017.
Derek Anderson played the majority of their snaps that year.
That's fucking awful.
And look,
I mean,
like,
granted, I can't blame him because Cam Newton was an MVP at that point, was a guy who took your team to the Super Bowl. You don't move on from him yet. You assume he could come back from that surgery, but even so, like, that is a rough draft where, Jamal Adams just got taken before you. Sorry. Marshawn Lattimore,
oh
all
no, I'm
pro
sorry. Cam Newton
cornerback,
started all 17 of those games. Oh no, 2017 draft. So that would have been
leading into the 17.
Yeah, 2017 to 2018. All right, so then yeah, then never mind. I'm wrong. That was Cam Newton played that whole season then.
I mean, Christian McCaffrey, great player. I'd rather have an all-pro cornerback. I'd rather have, one of the two all-pro cornerbacks here. Jonathan Allen is an awesome defensive edge rusher, defensive lineman for them. There's a lot of good players here. Garrett
Also,
Bowles
there's
turned
just
into an
nothing wrong with taking a
all-pro
quarterback
caliber
late.
guy. Tre'Davious White. Wow,
Yeah.
three all-pro caliber corners in this first round. Oh, and TJ Watt's there. Reuben Foster, Ryan Ramczyk. A lot of all-pro in this draft. That's pretty cool.
And we talked about the Saquon Barkley pick a bunch about like who else the Giants would have taken. And, the pick at the time was Sam Darnold, and it hasn't worked out for the Jets. To be determined if his career is salvageable. But point being, it still wasn't the smartest move because the Giants delayed the inevitable of having to draft a quarterback anyway and are arguably in a worse position than the Jets right now, even though they have Saquon Barkley. And
correct.
You got to ask yourself, is it all fucking worth it? And it sure doesn't seem like it is.
You want to know what the big difference between the Jets and the Giants are right now?
Tell me.
If you take away the unfortunate reality of Jets fans being so
constantly fucked.
That's a good way to put it. I was going to say institutionalized by their team because they are basically trapped in this belief that their team will always suck. The Jets should have a lot of hope right now because you're getting a great head coach, I should say, coming in. You have really great players that you've been able to bring in free agency, at least compared to the guys you've been able to bring in the past couple of years. You have a ton of cap space. You have the second overall pick. You have key pieces that you can build around. Giants have key pieces they can build around, but they're not in a position to take a franchise quarterback, which they still need. Their coaching situation is not nearly in the same area, not in the same, tier. And they're kind of stuck treading water without an offensive line. Their second overall pick, Saquon Barkley, has been hurt because of it. He just, it's incapable of carrying that team himself. Their defense is good, but not great. They're not in the same kind of spot the Jets are, and that's, I know you are slow to accept that because it's the Jets, but hey, here we are.
Here we are. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of controversial, because it's fascinating how there can be times and team specifics where math and analysis can show value and teams will resist to structure their strategy around those concepts and those valuations. Because if there's, the Steelers GM could just be like talking shit to try to get another team to waste a pick on a running back high so that a player he likes falls a little bit farther down, gives him better odds to take that player. It could be some, game theory shit like that, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, we see this shit all the time. It was a slow move to adjust for MLB, for a lot of teams to adjust to the concept of on-base percentage over batting average and launch angle as just a concept that can be measured and then built into a player's swing. And, you had teams like the Orioles and the Mets that just like said, fuck that shit. We got to hire people. Fucking no. And then didn't for like a decade. And, now they're getting better, but it's still, you wasted all that fucking time. And you have to wonder, with football being so much less accustomed to that building of valuations mathematically, the way baseball inherently is, if there's going to be any gaps. Maybe not necessarily like Rays to Orioles style where there's such extremes, because I'm not sure that those extremes will ever exist in football, but you got to wonder. Because I'm willing to bet that there's some value controversy in the draft, as there seems to be every year.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where if you look at how contracts are structured and the basically fixed rate that you're getting a player at, um, based off of his draft position, getting a starting caliber right tackle in, say, Tevin Jenkins, who, obviously, if you listen to the mock draft, is the guy I'm heavily favored. I want the Steelers to take. Getting a starting caliber right tackle for 5 years locked in at his, draft slot versus the cost of a starting running back as a first round talent. Let's say both players live up to their full potential. Running back is just such a significantly cheaper, less expensive, less cost efficient in this scenario for the Steelers to take. Not to mention, the ability to re-sign and likelihood to re-sign where, hey, you draft a right tackle, the chances of you re-signing him to a second deal is fairly good, especially a organization like the Steelers, who both have been known to extend their own guys, have been very good at taking care of their own guys. Whereas you don't want to sign a running back to a second deal. I mean, if you're a team that is capable of contending, if you're a team that is ready to compete, you can punt the running back position for a while, take one late in the first round, leading into when you're trying to contend. You have them for 4, even 5 years, still relatively cost controlled compared to the likelihood of them being able to put up a significant offensive impact. But that's a final piece to take, not a foundational piece. I can't say I'm going to be super upset if they take Najee Harris. I think he's going to be a tremendous offensive, dynamic piece for whatever team takes him in the draft. And I think he's going to pay off for whatever team takes him if they're in a situation to contend, if they're in a situation to compete. And don't have him stick around for 3 years while we retool, rebuild, look for another quarterback, I should say, in the hopes that we find one and contend while he's still under contract. So here's to hoping that's a smokescreen. At this point, if I had to put money on it, I would put money on Najee being the pick, just because that's everything we've heard, and the Steelers are fairly predictable with guys they are interested in. I mean, there's certain markers to look for the Steelers. Often it's, both Tomlin and Colbert being at certain pro days at the combine, eyeing up certain guys. This year's a little different, so it's hard to tell, but that's my prediction.
Okay.
And so the last one I have here for the NFL draft, Javonte Williams, running back out of North Carolina, who I would love the Steelers to take in the second round, is now being talked about. There's a lot of buzz under him being a potential first round riser, getting taken around, the mid to late 20s as the first running back off the board and the first running back for a lot of teams. Now, with Najee Harris, you have more of a strength, like a power runner, really good at catching the ball, really good at blocking, can do it all at a high level in between the tackles, burst outside, can catch the ball. Travis Etienne, between the tackles kind of runner, immense north-south speed, and is a guy who could be a lightning bolt for your team. Javonte Williams is more of this dynamic, focusing on pass or catching, passes, working out, in the flat, working out, if you want to move him to the slot. I know a lot of teams are doing that now with their pass catching running backs. Is just more of that Alvin Kamara mold, as opposed to Najee. I would say is, I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm just saying the mold of Saquon Barkley with what he is physically able to do, where he excels. I could see teams really having Williams above a guy like Travis Etienne, just having, a more dynamic play set, a style of running that would fit certain teams better. I could totally see that. I just don't see him jumping Najee Harris. I think Harris is too good of a player all around. I think he's too complete of a player to really lose that kind of throne that he has right now as the top running back. And I know ETN was kind of the guy talked about last year because he was doing this for so long and was such a dynamic, explosive part of that Clemson offense when they won the title. Heisman finalists, definitely talked about there. Najee Harris through the draft stages has always been the number one guy, and I just don't see the night before the draft Javonte Williams being the surprise first round jump. So I don't see it. Anything is possible, but I kind of see that one as more smoke than anything else.
Who do you think he'd go to?
See, that's what's tough is outside of the Steelers, I don't think there's many teams here that are really looking for running backs. I don't know what team would be willing to invest in that early on. I mean, Tampa could. I mean, I predicted them getting Harris mostly because Harris is I think I projected them ETN because he is a better, Ronald Jones to match with Leonard Fournette that they re-signed. I kind of don't see Williams coming in and being that guy unless Tom Brady's like, hey, I need a running back that can catch balls. I need my James White. I need my Rex Burkhead. I need my Deion Lewis, and the 15 guys before him. Maybe. But it's hard to see him get projected anywhere, especially over Harris. Because at that point, it's just throwing darts.
Okay. I guess we'll see.
You want to talk this Teddy Bridgewater trade?
Yeah. So the Carolina Panthers, Jesus Christ, have traded Teddy Bridgewater to the Denver Broncos. Oh my God. I'm like pulling up the article, even though I know all these details anyway. An article I had up and I'm just waiting to load. And oh boy, can I not talk? For a 6th round pick in this 2021 draft. That's it. One for one there. Teddy Bridge for a number 6.
Immense value for Denver. I think we're at the point where, he got hurt, came back from injury, signed with the Saints. You think, hey, this is, where he's going to, build himself back up. Drew Brees is going to eventually retire. Teddy's going to take over. There was still a good amount of hype coming off of his knee dislocation. Then you see him go to Carolina. He finally starts. Okay, there's some weapons there. He'll have Joe Brady this year. We could finally see a breakout from Teddy Bridgewater. And we still saw this, we still saw this game manager type player where he's not taking chances down the field. He's not pushing the ball downfield, checking down, easy passes across the middle, low depth of target. Just has not kind of really lived up to his hype leading into the draft originally. And so here we are, seeing a quarterback, a starting caliber quarterback, even if it's a low end starting caliber, in the mid 20s, if we were going to rank them again. Go for a 6th round pick is kind of crazy, but at the same time, everyone knew the Panthers were trying to trade him. We're right before the draft, so they weren't going to get much value afterwards. And this is just kind of what it's come to. I mean, I think it's a great trade for Denver just to kind of throw that dart. But yeah, not moving the needle for me.
No, I mean, it's perfectly reasonable. Teddy Bridgewater, I guess, wants a chance to start. And it's, like you said, it's kind of uncertain what the situation is in Denver. And it's uncertain enough that I guess he maybe is able to compete. Depends on how Denver wants to run their offense, I guess. But it's very certain that no matter what, Carolina's not starting him because why else trade for Sam Darnold? And it's not fitting for, I think Teddy wants to, if he's going to have a backup role, I'm sure he wants to have a more important backup role, a chance where he could actually get into more games, and that's to be found elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Denver's still looking for a QB. They don't think Drew Lock's their guy. Just not a very efficient passer. They're bringing in the polar opposite in Teddy Bridgewater, and we're going to see, hey, which of these works better in our offense? Which of these works better for us? Which of these can we trust to win us more football games? I don't think they expect either one of these guys to be anything more than a kind of, bridge to their eventual franchise starter. But I think it's a chance they still take a QB here if one of the big four were to fall. But it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Hard to say. John Elway looking for a big, tall, white QB, and
No, he's
Mac
not
Jones
he's not
ready to
making
go.
decisions anymore, right?
Oh, you're right. He did make that announcement that he was going to step down from that role.
Right. He did the ultimate corporate white guy thing. I'm promoting myself away from this responsibility.
That's another podcast we can have.
This experiment where I'm in charge of this thing has gone poorly, so I will promote myself and bow out to somebody different. I'll take more money and less responsibility, please.
Fucking Christ.
Like it was an option. Like it's a fucking option for, or whatever. It's yeah, you're right.
White
Different
people,
show.
fuck us.
Different show. All right, man. Anything else for football talk for now?
Man, I'm just super fucking excited for this draft. It's gonna be a good one.
I too am looking forward to this draft.
So,
I thought it was also funny that Roger Goodell said one of the things he's happy about is that he can hug the players.
That's weird.
That is really fucking weird, right? Like,
that's just weird.
Because, Roger Goodell's like, if you want to attend the draft in person, you can't, just have to be vaccinated. And he's like, I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these players in person. And I missed hugging the players last year or some shit like that. And it's like, dude, shut the fuck up. No one. I'm so desperate for touch. Like, dude, shut the fuck up. You creepy old ass weirdo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Did not like.
So one final note that I do have, just to get away from that awful thought. One of the tidbits I did see, one of the points that one of these draft guys did make was that because there has been a significant decrease in the amount of contact that team scouts, team evaluators have had with other team evaluators, whether that be at pro days, whether that be at the combine, especially the combine, I should say, at the Senior Bowl, they're expecting that there's a lot less groupthink. There's not a lot of old guys, standing around in a circle saying, wow, I love this guy, I love this. Oh yeah, I agree. That's totally right. Yeah. Not having that same groupthink among evaluators might lead to a much more surprising and diverse first round than what's projected by media members, which would be fucking amazing. I would love to see that kind of draft this year.
It's going to be an interesting one for sure, given all the events that we've missed and, all the debacles with college football this season and how that might affect evaluations. So it'll be interesting. That's for sure. Plus, the thing that matters most, Jets have the second overall pick. And that's all that really matters, man. That's all that really matters is that the New York Jetropolitans get some cool shit in the draft. But all right, shall we take it on down to the MLB?
Yes, sir.
The major pounds, MLBs. This feels like a joke someone should make. LBs are pounds. Why are LBs pounds? All right. Anyway,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think the point of the show. So let's start here. Mike Tauchman got traded to the San Francisco Giants in exchange for Wandy Peralta. Mike Tauchman is in a weird position in the Yankees lineup, I guess, in that he is very, very infrequently in the Yankees lineup. he's the fifth outfielder. And it's like wild that this was a guy that got brought over in 2019. And so many people said, hey, it's Brett Gardner's eventual replacement. And then Brett Gardner stayed higher than him on the depth chart for 3 seasons. And they had to move Mike Tauchman away because you just don't need a guy that does basically all of the things that Brett Gardner does, but is also a short-term solution and is cheap. Basically what that means to say is if you have Brett Gardner, who's old and makes over $1 million a year, he has not much trade value, but will be productive in the short term. Mike Tauchman does all the same productive things, but has more control and is cheaper. But you also wouldn't expect to be a long-term solution based on his past productivity and how that signals towards his future performance. So if you got to trade one of those guys and actually want to get something back, you trade Mike Tauchman. So that's why I'm assuming that happened. And, Togman's a solid player. This is also great for him. It's nice to see him go to a place where he can, in theory, get some play time. And I think it's great that the Giants, I guess, are back to doing shit. That's nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Way to go, Giants. So, Mike Tauchman barely played in any games, so he doesn't really have any stats from this season. Last year was not his hottest season. He had 1 barreled ball out of 70 batted ball events. That's 1.4%. It's pretty bad. No, it's pretty bad. It's quite really bad. Good. His expected batting average last season was .251. That's just not good. It's just not great. And his actual batting average last season. Oh, actually, I don't have it here because I'm in the fancy baseball page, not the basic bitch baseball page. Whatever.
How dare you?
Yeah. But Wandy Peralta has been electric with his stuff. He's in the 75th or greater percentile for average exit velocity, hard hit percent, expected ERA, expected WOBA, barrel ball percent, whiff percent, and chase rate. And he's over 50th percentile in max exit velocity, expected batting average, expected slugging, and walk percent. The only place where he struggles a little bit is K percent, but in this early goings of the season, you'd expect those things to something like the strikeouts to eventually come if the stuff is there. He's a left-handed pitcher. He's 29. He's been around for a bit, but he's shaken up his repertoire. He's actually throwing more fastballs, believe it or not, as his usage is up year over year. 11.5% of the time used in 2019. 2020 was up to 22% of the time. This season's up to 36.7% of the time. His slider usage is up, and he's gotten rid of his sinker almost entirely, which is good because no one should be throwing sinkers much anymore. And he has a changeup. So, do you need another reliever of the Yankees?
Why shouldn't people be throwing sinkers anymore?
Because sinker balls are often used as your pitch to contact ball, and it's just not a style of baseball that I think is valued or produces the type of results that you want. I think there's better ways of getting the same thing you'd get out of a sinker by using a different pitch.
Okay. I can't say I get it, but I'll trust you.
I mean, you see more
I should
splitters
say,
and curveballs and sliders.
Theory. I just don't understand the reasoning for yeah.
To be honest with you, I'm kind of there too, because I know, for instance, the sinker is a pitch that the Pirates made every pitcher throw because the Pirates built a strategy around ground balls being derived from sinkers. The problem, I guess, is if you don't throw a sinker exceedingly well, you are going to get fucked because it's still a fastball, which means that most baseball players have great slugging percents on fastballs because they see them the better and can time them out the best. And if they don't move right, they're easy as shit to square up and get took deep. And the problem is most players, unless your name is like Zach Britton, don't have the world's greatest sinker ball. And I think it just gets slammed too much because this idea of pitching to contact is what ultimately led to swing adjustments that change the plane of swings to try to make the most out of the contact you can actually get on balls. And I think the sinker ball is just a bygone part of that era where you'd actually try to allow some degree of contact and bank on this idea that the swing plane will allow for that to mostly be a ground ball. Again, it's not entirely 100% like this is the only way it can be. But I think the idea of the downward motion to get topped over balls comes about more so seeing curveballs, sliders, change-ups, and splitters than it does from sinker balls anymore.
Got it.
At least that's how I've interpreted the last few years of baseball development. Especially the easiest way to internalize it is the Pirates make everyone throw splitters pre this season. This season, they've actually given up on that finally. And everyone the Pirates touch for pitching turns to poop. They're all poop. Everybody that the Pirates pick up to pitch is poop. All of them are poop. And they all made them throw sinkers.
Yes, they did.
Look at any Pirates pitcher. Let's look at Jameson Taillon because now I'm curious. Let's look at Jameson Taillon and let's see what happened to his rate of splitters after he left the Pirates. Oh, I'm sweating in my apartment. I was not expecting it to be like 90 degrees today.
Yeah, I'm pretty fucking hot too.
Oh, you know, oh, there's a sinker. Yeah, so in 2016, his sinker ball was used. He used it 41.3% of the time. It's actually gone down every season. 2017 was at 35.1. Yeesh. 2018, 21.9, and then 2019, 19.8. Then he didn't use it in 2020 because he didn't pitch in 2020. And then he hasn't used it in 2021, at least from what I can see. Let's actually also look. I'm curious again. Let's look at Garrett Cole, former Pirate. Show me your balls, Garrett Cole.
Why do you like to hurt me?
Show me your balls.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
again, what was Garrett Cole's final year in Pittsburgh, 2016?
Whose final year in Pittsburgh was?
Or was it 2017?
Who?
Garrett Cole.
We traded Cole for Musgrove, Colin Moran. I want to say that was 2017. Maybe 2018.
No, it definitely wasn't 2018.
Was that the year that they won it? Houston?
2017 was his last season in Pittsburgh.
Got it.
Okay. So in 2017, Garrett Cole's sinker ball usage was 13.1. That is down from its previous year usage of 19.2. These are percentages. And then in 2018, it was down to 6.1. 2019, it was 2.4. And then he hasn't thrown it since 2019. And I guarantee you, if you pick any random Pirates starter or pitcher that left the Pirates and then look at their sinker ball usage, it evaporates.
His ERA went down 1.5 points. His strikeouts per 9 went up 4 points. His WHIP went down 0.22. His FIP went down 1.4. His ERA plus went up by 44 points.
And I mean,
His
some of it's to be expected
because strikeouts went up by 80.
Because if you were looking to get
80.
a swing and a partial miss, which is basically what a weak contact ball is, why would you want to allow contact at all if you could just pick a different pitch and construct a pitch, build a pitch that just moves more out of the way so that you don't allow any of the contact? What's up, Corwin?
Because that would allow you to pitch 2.2 less innings and get 80 more strikeouts.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. I mean, and it lowers your FIP because you're putting fewer balls in play. So your fielding independent pitching is probably going to improve if you have to rely a little bit less on the fielding and more on the independent pitching. But anyway,
That's why I'm this fan now. The Padres, courtesy of Joshua Tracy. Everyone look at my cool hat.
Got to support my boy and pitching ninja. Robert Friedman. All right. So yeah, I think it's a decent trade. Again, like I haven't seen any Yankees fans upset, which is great because y'all gotta stop complaining so much about everything. It's also nice because in theory, whoever we have in the minors is going to be the guy that's going to replace Brett Gardner at this point. And we got a reliever. Never have too many relievers, so yeah. Works out. All right. So then let's take it to something that happened today as of recording this, which is some more umpire bullshit, courtesy of the Marlins Brewers game. So I'll set the scene for you. Corwin, I'm not sure if you saw this or not.
I did.
But you did? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So Isan Diaz hit a soft ground ball down the first base line. It was fielded then by Zach Godley, the Milwaukee Brewers pitcher at the time, who picked it up, underhand threw it to fucking Daniel Vogelbach, Jesus Christ, first player for the Brewers, and who put his foot on the bag to cause the force out of Isan Diaz, and it would have been the second out of the inning, I believe. I watched it live, which was very confusing. But some dick named Marty Foster, fucking asshole, was like, no. You touched him inappropriately. Obstruction. Take your base. So basically what happened is as Isan Diaz was running down the line, he cuts in to the infield grass to, I'm guessing, force an obstruction call by bumping into Zach Godley, but they only so barely touched feet. Like, so barely. And there's a few reasons why this is very annoying. Reason number one, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. No, he was out by like 2 feet. Not 2 steps, like 2 feet. He was out by so much. Like, just let it be an out. But the more important reasons why it matters is that this is, again, the umps being dicks. You know what? Just because all rules technically are rules doesn't mean you have to enforce all the rules all the same all the time. There can be a mutual understanding of what matters and what doesn't matter, you know?
Yes, I do know. And at the end of the day, I don't understand the rationale. I don't understand the call, and that the biggest point of all of this should be, why the fuck are you making that call? Like, why are you sticking with that call? There's nothing there that affected the play. There's nothing there that truly impeded the runner. You can't even argue it was Godley's fault that the runner was impeded.
No. Which is, and old man complaining time.
Yep.
Zach Godley didn't do anything wrong. Isan Diaz stepped on the infield grass, which is literally running out of the base paths, which should have been an automatic out. Additionally, the contact took place after Daniel Vogelbach stepped on first base, which means by any stretch of the imagination, Isan Diaz, when he does bump into Zach Godley, is already out when that happened. So again, I fail to see how that contact matters in the slightest. In every single situation, Isan Diaz is out already, no matter what. But the greater point of it is, and you and I have had this conversation so many times, especially around stupid bulk calls, like the guy who got called on a bulk for spitting. Like, just because it is written down that when this thing happens, there is this consequence doesn't mean you must apply the strictest definition of that term. Like, that's why hockey can be great, because if you didn't hustle fast enough, they won't call the icing. If you didn't get down to your own end fast enough because you were trying to draw the call, the ref is going to look at that shit and go like, bitch, that's fucking on you. Like, I'm not dealing with this bullshit. You got to play it right. And you wish that there was, and I'm not saying that refereeing in the NHL is like magical and amazing. It's not. It is very much so not. But there is still some flexibility around rules that there just doesn't seem to be with certain umpires. And I would imagine it's in MLB's best interest to say, hey, unless it directly impacts the game, shut the fuck up. Because you know what it does when you take the time to do this shit and call out all these ticky-tacky bullshit things? Slows down the pace of play.
100%.
Who wants to tune into a game where the commentators are like, I have no idea what's happening?
The game that we have everyone do LSD for.
The Doc Ellis game?
Yes.
No, but see, in that instance, the commentators are also on LSD.
Right.
So they perfectly understand what's happening.
No, they are fucking
in their own
lost.
minds.
They are.
They don't know what's happening on the field.
The commentary they are making is essentially just what they are visualizing themselves. So the whole commentary is just going to be pure psychosis, just nothingness.
Yeah. No, it'll be like, whatever I see, man, that's what's happening.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's a bad week for umpires, which is every week in baseball. It's the main part of the season going, man, this fucking guy, it's the best part of the sport, man.
100%.
Going, shit, him?
Absolutely.
Now? Why this? Yeah, anyway. It's a developing story, but Gary Sanchez has been benched for Kyle Higashioka.
Which is interesting.
It is. It is interesting. And I feel for my boy Gary, because I still do believe in the tale of Gary Sanchez. And I still hold in my heart that he is getting fucked, because I can't help but see the balls he hits and go, God damn, that man fucking smoked that shit that went right to a guy. And, I want to look at that shit and go, you can't, like that's bad luck. And I still think it is bad luck.
Yeah.
But at the same time, no matter how you look at it in the box score of what's happening, Gary Sanchez isn't getting on base. And Kyle Higashioka is. And that's just the reality of the situation. Gary Sanchez has 2 home runs on the season. Kyle Higashioka has 4. Gary Sanchez has 55 plate appearances, and Kyle Higashioka has 27. That's half.
Mm-hmm.
He's been crushing the ball. Crushing it.
And it's one of those things where I don't disagree with the idea of it doesn't matter if Gary Sanchez has this otherworldly power, if he is, making the moves to, be more consistent. At the end of the day, if he's not becoming a better player, or if he's not, playing well and the other guy is, the season's long enough where it shouldn't matter, at all. Start Kyle Higashioka while he's playing well. Bench Gary Sanchez until he shows he can play better. What else do you want?
Yeah, and just to emphasize the point, I really think this all comes down to launch angle to some degree. Gary Sanchez in 2021, thus far this season, average exit velocity of 91.5 miles per hour. Pretty fucking quick. Kyle Higashioka, 87.6. So, Gary is knocking the ball. I mean, 3.5 extra miles per hour is really significant. When you're talking about an average of all contact made.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not happening for him. And for whatever reason, whether we sit here and diagnose it or not, for whatever reason it's happening, it kind of doesn't matter at the moment because, again, Higgy's getting on base. And I understand. This is one of the points which I always wonder with when you play certain players, which is the idea of hot and cold.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because
mm-hmm.
it's like, in my mind, it's like playing the stock market, like day trading, everything, some things will go up, some things will go down. Some things go up a lot higher than the market as an average does, higher than the indices do. And you're going to want to get that shit going. You want to get yourself into that position, try to ride that wave as long as you can, and then jump out when you feel as though you've hit a reasonable point. I'm not saying target time the market so much. I'm talking maybe just set reasonable expectations for how long your momentum can carry you and make yourself an exit point. And I kind of wonder, and it's the same thing, like if you're driving your car, changing lanes when the other lane seems like it's moving faster and then changing back to the lane you were in after you've gone a certain stretch of road,
Mm-hmm.
Shit we all do. And you got to wonder how much of that applies to starting players, because every player is going to have cold streaks. Every player is going to have hot streaks. Now, the tough part about it is that you have to stop playing players in order to play other players. You have, Gleyber Torres and Francisco Lindor on the same team. Why you would, I have no idea. Or how you would, I should say. I have no idea. Let's say you did, and they're both playing shortstop for whatever reason. One of them has to play over the other one. And that's going to be tough to stomach for the other one, the one who's not playing. I understand that. And if you're a team, you want both of them to play all the time because they're good players. But the idea of capitalizing on who has momentum in the moment, and I think in a league with the DH, like the American League, you should be able to have the ability to navigate that hotness to a certain extent. And I think that's kind of where Gary's at, because he's not. The contact isn't the issue.
No.
He's knocking the shit. It's everything else. And he's cold. And Higgy's hot. And it sounds stupid to boil it down to who's hot and who's cold, but the Yankees offense is shit. I bet if the Yankees offense was better, they might not have pulled Gary quite so early in the season, since they wouldn't necessarily need his bat to be on it. But they need offense, and they're not getting it out of him. You got to try somewhere else.
In my mind, this is a complete non-issue.
Yeah. Yeah. So damn. There's some other things going on. We're gonna say some stuff for next episode and the episode afterwards, just because it's getting late here. I'm fucking sweating. Jesus Christ.
I am as well.
Yeah, we're also gonna have Emily Nyman back on the show next Monday. Next Thursday. I was wrong. Next Thursday. So 1 week from today, we'll have Emily Nyman back on to talk more baseball bullshit. We'll talk about that new home run derby rule that's being considered in the not the Premier League, not the Pacific League, not the Frontier League. You know what league I'm talking about?
The Pioneer League.
Pioneer League. Thank you. Jesus Christ. So we'll do that. We'll talk about that. And we'll talk about what else is going on in the wide world of baseball. But Monday's episode will be all about the draft as we recap what happened with that. Baseball on Thursday. And we're looking good for the week, man. We got a lot of fun shit going on. This is also the last time you'll see this apartment in my background as I move this weekend and this shit will all be gone. I'll have a whole different background that you won't be paying attention to on Monday's episode.
Mhm.
Say goodbye to this apartment, fellas and ladies.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Corwin, you got anything else before we head out of here?
I will be putting 100% of my attention on the draft for the next 4 days, and pretty much everything you're going to see from me on Twitter is going to be the draft for the next 4 days.
Can't wait. I am prepared, mind, body, and soul. Well, all right, buddy.
Nice.
If you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can do so at JuicingPod. If you want to follow Corwin on Twitter, you can do so at Corwin and Heller. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at Joshua D. Tracy. If you want to send us emails, you can do so at juicingthenumbers@gmail.com. I totally forgot that for a second. And until Monday, y'all have a good one.
Bye.